The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My guest this hour is a young lady I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years. I first met Lady Ashley in St. Catharines while I was at 610 CKTB, and over the years I've had the opportunity of keeping track of Lady Ashley, and we had her on the show last month, and you, the X-Zone Nation, want more of Lady Ashley, and I can't blame you. So we've made it a pact that Lady Ashley will be joining us at least once a month. And joining me now from her home in St. Catharines, Ontario, is my good friend Lady Ashley. And Lady Ashley, welcome back to the X-Zone.
And thank you for having me back.
Oh, it's always a great pleasure, Lady Ashley, always a great pleasure, especially today is Friday the 13th, and I know that you and I are going to be talking about Friday the 13th a little later on in the show, but I must say, usually people say Friday the 13th is unlucky, and Friday the 13th has always been lucky for me, so...
Yep, me too.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little later on. How have you been since you and I last talked?
Depending on the day, but most days hot. Way too hot, but lots of fun as always, because I really do believe in you have to live every moment, you have to love beyond words, and you have to laugh every day.
And as a friend of mine in Montreal once told me, he said, Rob, you're here for a good time, not for a long time.
That's true.
And I said, I'll drink to that, and we did that night. Lady Ashley, you sent me some very interesting information about a gentleman by the name of John Dee, and he was born on the 13th of July, 1527, and he either died in 1608 and 1609. What can you tell us about this very interesting person who was born on a 13th?
Well, Dr. John Dee, probably more than anything, particularly in the magical community, is known for his scrying skills, particularly with mirrors, and also for attempting to communicate with angels in the Enochian, or at least what he called Enochian language. So that, of course, prompts me to say that, you know, like the Book of Enoch was way earlier than just the 20th century.
Now, you mentioned he was known for scrying. What is scrying?
Well, scrying is a bit, it's like divination, where that you are divining something in that you're using some kind of tool to find out if you got a yes or a no answer, or just more information. And you can use water, you can use divining rods, you can use mirrors, and there's a couple of others, but those are the three most common ones.
So what else do we know about Dr. John Dee?
Well, he certainly was a mathematician. He was an astronomer and an astrologer. And, of course, back in Renaissance times or Elizabethan times, astronomy and astrology were basically, they were always practiced together. And he also worked, because he was very strongly in support, and Elizabeth supported him in the same way of, improving navigation, improving cartography, improving optics, so that England could become the queen of the seas and have a great British Empire. And in fact, British Empire was a term that was coined by Dee. So we get to blame Dr. Dee for that one. But he, because it was Renaissance times, it wasn't quite, because they were rediscovering science in many ways. There was a lot of metaphysics along with the science. So, and he was certainly a scholar of his age. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And in fact, he became a fellow of the Trinity College, Cambridge, at the age of 19. So he was pretty smart.
Certainly sounds it.
Yeah.
I also understand that he was an alchemist, and he actually traveled across Europe.
Yeah, he, of course, he practiced alchemy in England, and alchemy hadn't quite made the bridge into chemistry. It would probably by about 1640s, 1650s, and of course by that time Dee had passed. But alchemy was slowly but surely becoming modern-day chemistry. And along with a gentleman named Edward Kelly, who history in many ways has treated Kelly as a charlatan. But Kelly was also an alchemist. And they traveled all across Europe visiting this king, that duke, this emperor. And certainly it's also believed that while Dee was traveling with Kelly, that he used the Enochian language as a cipher so that he could send reports back to England. Because, of course, he hung around with people like Walsingham and Cecil, the spymaster, Elizabeth's spymasters.
So he was right at the very top of the Elizabethan echelon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Was he part of the Elizabethan court?
Oh, yes, he definitely was part of the court. Was he as politically involved? I don't think so, in the sense that he was a very deeply religious man. He was a terribly, terribly honest man, and I think he was just too busy, figuring out this, figuring out that, trying to do science, et cetera, to really get involved in some of the politics. And I mean, because the Elizabethan court certainly had a lot of intrigue,
sure,
but he didn't seem to get involved or be involved in that. He just was, he was like this really, really smart guy, and definitely mathematical as well as scientific, as well as religious, and he was just this amazing advisor for Elizabeth. And it's actually refreshing, I think, because a lot of the people in the Elizabethan court were dirtbags, I guess.
So tell me what you really think they were.
Yeah, exactly. They were, whatever.
Yeah. As an alchemist, what kind of alchemy did he practice?
Well, like all the alchemists of the time, they wanted to transmute things into gold. And, of course, nobody ever did get there. In the 20th century, it's possible, but it's quite the feat, even in the 20th century with the technology that we have. You don't really transmute to gold, you actually combine this, that, and that, and a whole bunch of other things, not just minerals to get to the gold. But that was, of course, that was the goal of all the alchemists. But they practiced with every bit of mineral that they could get their hands on, trying to transmute to gold. And it was as a result of the workings in alchemy that did finally get scientists in the mid-1600s to chemistry, and basically modern chemistry was born. So they did a lot of the precursor work for the chemists. And certainly mathematics, Dee was very much a mathematician, because when he was also trying to communicate with angels and using the Enochian language, he based it all on mathematics, and he truly believed that it would be mathematics that would help mankind, not humankind, because he was a creature of his age,
yes,
but mankind to become more divine or get closer to the divine.
All right, Lady Ash, please stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Exo Nation, Lady Ashley is our very special guest this hour. And if you'd like to contact Lady Ashley, her email address is ashleysmagic@gmail.com. That's Ashley's, and there's 2 S's there, ashleysmagic@gmail.com. Lady Ashley and I will return on the other side of this commercial break with the news. No, the news is next, in the next hour. Or the next segment, I should say. It's Friday. It's been a long week, gang. Lady Ashley and I will return as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
We live in rapidly shifting times of extreme volatility and uncertainty. Such profound change brings a unique opportunity for the evolution of consciousness. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio Show, a program that explores the latest scientific developments and deepening spiritual truths supporting human evolution. Join me on XZBN.net, where I interview leading experts in science, physics, medicine, spirituality, and more. By applying divergent viewpoints to leading-edge topics, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truth to assist you on your path to enlightenment. More information and past episodes are available at missionevolution.org.
Lady Ashley is my special guest this hour. X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to send Lady Ashley an email, her email address is ashleysmagic, and there's 2 S's. That's ashleysmagic@gmail.com. Ashley, what do you think the most significant contribution to the world was that John Dee did?
Well, to me, because I've studied up on him, I think that that he made as big a contribution to the scientific world as much as he did to the magic world. Now, of course, science and magic, they all look at each other and go, "Get out of here! I don't think you did it."
Yeah.
Right? And they all have fits about it, or the two have fits about each other. I mean, certainly because of Dee's dabbling in the occult and magic, he really was disrespected for a good 400 years. And his association with Edward Kelly didn't help, because Edward Kelly was really quite the character. But I think Dee's contribution to mathematics, certainly things like navigation, cartography, and optics, as well as alchemy, which was to become chemistry, I certainly think that he had a huge contribution there. But at the same time, scrying and communications with angels, because kind of up to that point, communications with angels were not really approved or looked on with approval, particularly by the Catholic Church. Now, of course, Elizabethan England was Protestant, and Elizabeth was, a lot more free-thinking than, certainly, like, for example, James I, who came after her. He did not like occult practices. I mean, it was through James that there were a lot of witch trials in England, and of course, it did affect Dee in the latter part of his life, because he did die in poverty, and of course, James is known for the King James Bible, but he didn't like any of the occult stuff. Elizabeth, on the other hand, she was perfectly fine. She was interested in, I've got this nation to rule, and I want it to be like the best thing since sliced bread. And there's no doubt that Elizabeth did that. And she really had some truly amazing people, surrounding her, and Dee was one of them.
It's almost as if the occult and science could not exist without the other.
Well, certainly in the Renaissance, yes, that's very true, because Europe was so far behind, and as the Renaissance started, there was also a lot more association with a lot of the Muslim scholars via the Ottoman Empire. And then those guys were pretty scientific. But there were religious rules in the Ottoman Empire as much as there were the Catholic and the Protestant rules and disapprovals in Europe. So science took a long time to really get to the point where it's like, okay, science is good, and it's nothing. It's got nothing against religion, and it doesn't detract from religion. And so they were trying to explain things. They were trying to understand, and they were trying to rediscover. And certainly Dee was one of the people who helped rediscover a number of things. And even Edward Kelly, though he was quite the character, he helped too, because he really was considered a very good alchemist. Kelly was.
So when it came to alchemy, what did Dee actually discover, if anything?
Well, like all of the alchemists, really, it's not so much what they discovered well, no, that's not right. They certainly didn't discover how to transmute something into gold. Right. None of them did. None of them succeeded. But basically, with all of the experiments in alchemy, it was, okay, say, for example, in navigation, as you know, we can improve the lead containers for, the spy glasses and stuff like that. So, and all of them worked like that, is that they were improving how they were using metals with various things. Now, of course, lead was very popular because they didn't understand what lead did,
yes,
to the human body at that point. And lead was very easy to mine as well. And it was also very easy to work with because lead's quite soft. And, but as chemistry developed later, then they started to go, but it still took until the 20th century for people to say, okay, we don't need to use lead anymore. This is not good. So it still took hundreds of years, chemistry, alchemy and chemistry notwithstanding. But the scrying is, if you, more than anything, like if we're going back to the occult, the scrying that Dee did, and of course he did it with mirrors rather than water or divining rods. And of course the very famous obsidian, and it's just like the shiniest, smoothest thing in the whole world. And it's Aztec. It's an Aztec mirror, actually, made of obsidian. And he basically would gaze into it along with a crystal ball, and he would try to communicate with angels, and part of the things that are all in the British Museum that are attributed to Dee, there's some pretty occult markings and markings and writing, and it's really fascinating to look at in detail, and in many ways, Dee probably brought more discipline to scrying for magic workers than probably anybody else.
It almost seems as if the word occult should be exchanged for the word science.
And yes, back then, absolutely. Yeah. And certainly when you're when a magic worker or magic practitioner is looking at paranormal, I think a lot of things that are paranormal are just simply that, because scientifically we don't know how to explain it yet. We just don't know. And basically from the Renaissance to the modern day, as things are understood more and as the technology improves, we start to go, oh, okay, all right, so that's no longer in the paranormal venue, it's now in the normal or the scientific venue. And but there's no doubt that there is a competition between the two.
And there still is to this very day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think that there will ever come a time, Lady Ashley, when both will be on the same team and help each other solve each other's mysteries?
certainly it would be my hope, because I would like, personally would like to see more scientific discipline applied to paranormal and the occult. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I now belong to a geology club and I go rock hounding, because I want to go and get the rocks myself, and I want to, feel the metaphysics of the rocks. Now, of course, I do all the scientific stuff too, and there are times when scientifically I look at the crystals or the rocks, and then I go, and metaphysically it also means this. Aha, there is a similarity here. It doesn't always happen, but it happens sometimes. But then that's me too. I mean, I've always been
very inquisitive,
relatively strange.
Well, I wouldn't say strange. I don't consider you strange. I consider you to be very inquisitive and highly educated.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, Lady Ashley, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break now at the bottom of the hour. When we come back, we're going to be talking about today, Friday the 13th. Some people find it to be unlucky for good reason. And others, like Lady Ashley and I, have always had very lucky Friday the 13th. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Lady Ashley is our very special guest. Lady Ashley is in St. Catharines, Ontario. And if you'd like to contact Lady Ashley, her email address is ashleysmagic, and there's 2 S's there, ashleysmagic@gmail.com. Lady Ashley and I return after this break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, just down the QEW from St. Catharines.
Broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond. You're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Den.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologist
facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Exonation, Lady Ashley from St. Catharines, Ontario is our special guest this hour. And if you'd like to send Lady Ashley an email, her email address is ashleysmagic@gmail.com. First of all, Ash, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. We look forward to having you with us every month. But before we get back to Friday the 13th, I'd just like to ask you about your geology club.
It's one of a number here in Ontario, and I happen to be the field trip director. So that means I get to go, okay, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, and we're going to collect all these things. So, smart person, right? You know, but we have a lot of fun. We get very dirty.
Uh-huh.
Our cars get very dirty.
Yes.
We always bring home way too many rocks.
Uh-huh.
But we just have an absolute hoot.
Excellent. And what kind of rocks do you mostly look for? Or is it just you go to a location and you look for whatever rock is there?
Yeah, that's right. Whatever rock is at that particular location. And we've got some absolutely awesome geology in this province, particularly gemstones.
Really?
As well as gold and silver.
Excellent. All right, back to the task at hand.
Okay.
Friday the 13th.
So the 13th has a lot of history behind it. Friday, not so much. Friday seems to be a much, as an unlucky day, seems to be a much later construct in that, as we got into probably Roman times, Friday sort of became the end of the week. And, so you don't start anything new on the end of the week because you're going to have your day of rest on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, Fridays are also the Sabbath in a lot of religions. It was really the Christian religion that chose Sunday, but a number of other religions have Friday as their Sabbath. And so it's considered unlucky to start something new, with the exception, of course, of Good Friday, which I just think is the wildest reason, because, of course, that was the day that Christ was crucified, and yet it is considered lucky to be born on Good Friday. It's considered lucky to start a long voyage or start a project on Good Friday. And I just think that's like, okay, all right, who thought that one up? And so Friday doesn't have so much the history that 13 does. And yet, what is fun about it are the Vikings, okay? Because, of course, Loki is involved in Friday. Frigga, who is the hot tamale goddess of love, fertility, and sorcery for the Norse or the Vikings, her day is Friday. Friday is named after her. and she was having her usual weekly party, and they didn't invite Loki, and Loki was very annoyed, so he came along anyway, and of course there were all these other Norse gods there, and Balder was immune to anything. You could throw everything at Balder, and it wouldn't hurt him at all. It would just bounce right off him, with exception of mistletoe. And Hodor, who is Balder's brother, happens to be blind. And Loki gave Hodor a little mistletoe spear and said, throw it at Balder. And, of course, it killed Balder. Okay. So Loki is not a particularly nice guy. So just like the way he's in Marvel Comics and the Avenger films, yeah, he's not a nice guy. Okay.
Yeah. Isn't it also believed that Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit on a Friday?
Yes, that is a belief. Yeah. Now, there seems to be no proof, but it is a biblical scholar belief that they ate the fruit, the forbidden fruit, on a Friday, and there's certainly been some interesting Fridays, like the Knights Templar. Apparently, they got all arrested on Friday, October 13th. But is that necessarily true? And but then you look at things like Pope John Paul. He was shot 4 times on Friday the 13th, and despite being shot, and despite having a lung infection complication, he made a full recovery. So, in one sense, it wasn't a lucky Friday for him, but it did bring him luck. I mean, Pope John Paul II was more beloved. I mean, he already was very much a beloved pope, but he was a more beloved pope after the assassination attempt. And then, of course, great things for the future. Apparently, on Friday, April the 13th of 2029, there is an asteroid that is going to pass by Earth, and it will not collide either with the Earth or Moon.
That is good news.
That is good news.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want any asteroids, please and thank you.
Jeez.
And of course, the Friday the 13th films. I mean, nobody can deny that they have done very, very well at the box office.
Yeah, I can't understand why people like to get the scare held up. Scared to a certain point, and everybody covers their eyes. It's going to happen, for goodness sake, and it's only a film.
Yeah. So, and of course, back to the Vikings. Frigga, this the hot tamale goddess.
Yes.
She also was, as the Vikings became Christianized, she was labeled a witch, because after all, she was the goddess of sorcery. And just like the Romans, she would get together every Friday with 11 other witches and the devil. And, of course, for years and years and years, Friday has also been known as the witches' Sabbath. But then it's the Sabbath of many other religions, too.
Yeah, it's funny how you can put a negative connotation to something that you don't agree with, and whatever you believe in has to be right. I think it's about time when we all sat down on a big table and said, all right, let's take a good look at things. Plus, Ashley, we know for a fact that historians have lied through their teeth.
Well, yes, because of course that's what history is. It is the conqueror. I mean, there's a saying: the conqueror writes the history.
Yeah.
But one thing I think everybody knows, or if they disagree with it, they certainly have heard it. The fact is that the cradle of humanity is Africa.
Definitely.
We all started, in the East African Rift, and then down in South Africa in those gorgeous caves that they found down there. And, between those two spots, that's where every single human being comes from, whether it is we, the Homo sapiens sapiens, or it is the Homo neanderthalis or the Homo habilis. Every single human being on the face of this planet is from Africa. So we are all brothers and we are all sisters. We are all the same people. And one of these days we will learn to go, you know what, I don't care that you're different, that you look different from me. I like you anyway because you're my bro or you're my sis.
It's about time we did that, because this earth is getting to a point where it needs help. And the only way that we can help it and survive as a species is to get along with each other. You know, cut us, we all bleed. You know, we're just books with different covers. That's it.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
My gosh, philosophically.
One last thing before we finish.
Okay.
One of my, another funny thing that I like about Friday, for Lucky Fridays, is, of course, it's the casual dress down, Aloha Friday, or, you know, thank goodness it's Friday. But in England, they also call it the Poets' Day. Oh. And, of course, Poets stands for piss off early, tomorrow is Saturday. So I think everybody in the world should call Friday Poets' Day.
Well, we will hear in the X-Zone in honor of Lady Ashley every Friday. Ashley, as always, great talking to you. Time flies by when you're with us. I thank you so much for joining us. Take care of yourself. Keep, getting your rocks off. And we'll speak to you the next time you join us within a month here in the X-Zone. Take care of yourself, sweetie.
You too, and thank you again for having me on.
It's our great pleasure, Lady Ashley. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to send Lady Ashley an email, her email address is ashleysmagic, and that's 2 S's in Ashley's Magic. All right, we got that so far, Ashley's Magic, at gmail.com. All right, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can watch the X-Zone TV show on the X-Zone TV channel and other great programming that we are producing and putting up there for one and all to see. But you have to go to www.simultv.com and read how you can watch us here in the X-Zone from our broadcast station and studios in Hamilton. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howell expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
The concept of a new age has been around since the late 19th century, yet much of its original meaning has been lost. What exactly is the new age? Is it a religion, a collection of obscure esoteric practices, a series of doomsday predictions, or an astrological event? The New Age Chronicles is a unique, complementary publication bringing reason and grounded information to separate fact from fiction. Chock full of valuable information to support you as we make the monumental shift into the new era. You won't want to miss a single innovative issue. The New Age Chronicles newspaper is coming soon to www.newagechronicles.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. My very special guest this hour is the one and only Lady Ashley from St. Catharines, Ontario. And if you'd like to contact Lady Ashley, her email address is ashleysmagic, and there's two S's there, ashleysmagic@gmail.com. All right, Ash, today is Friday the 13th, and everyone who lives in this part of Ontario knows it. One of the big things that happens on Friday the 13th is all the bikers go to Port Dover. Okay.
This is true.
All right. The reasoning
and
behind...
they all have fun.
Yeah.
So they probably consider it a pretty lucky day, too. And certainly, personally, I have always felt it's lucky. And in many ways, Friday the 13th is kind of two superstitions that kind of got brought together.
Okay.
The first one, like if we look at the number itself, in numerology, as civilization sort of switched from being matriarchal to patriarchal, 12 is the number of patriarchy, 13 is the number of matriarchy. 13 got bad press and got trashed. And there is a relationship, though it's a relatively esoteric one, to the Song of Ishtar, which is Babylonian. And then there's a silly one, and I love the silly ones because, like, apparently the Babylonian Code of Hammurabi, the laws are numbered. Well, it's the English translation that was numbered, not the original Babylonian tablets. And by accident, when they printed the English translation, they forgot number 13. They just forgot to put it in the book.
Oh, so it had nothing to do with the...
And so, but it always gets quoted as, the Babylonians didn't number one of their laws 13. And that's entirely untrue. But certainly you can see it in the Greeks, where that the Greeks had, 12 gods of the Olympus, the 12 labors of Heracles, 12 months in a year, 12 hours in a day, 12 signs of zodiac. So 12 was considered perfect, and it's like, 13 is the next number, so we don't need to pay any attention to it, right? It's an off or an odd number. And the Romans quite freely adopted that. And then as Rome switched into Christianity, they believed that witches gathered in groups of 12 along with the devil, making number 13. And of course, witches and Wicca don't believe in the devil, so it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, Rome. And but there were a number of other things. I mean, certainly when there were 13 full moons in a year, it messed up the liturgical calendars. And then, of course, there was the relationship to the Last Supper, because it was Christ and the 12 apostles. That's 13 people. And of course, the Last Supper was when Judas, kissed Christ, and that was when he, was considered a traitor.
Sure, he betrayed him to the yes.
Yeah, and though there's some fascinating writings on was Judas a traitor or wasn't he? There's some really fascinating writings on that, and it's worth the read.
One of the things that I read about Judas was that he was actually the treasurer of the group, and that Christ would only give his most trusted apostle the job of being the treasurer, or the one who held the money, which raises questions: was Peter the favored, or was Judas?
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, because don't forget, like the other apostles, they got to do the press.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas Judas didn't. And of course, sadly, Judas did
he hung
commit
himself,
suicide.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that in the New Testament, the 13th chapter of Revelations, that is the apocalypse of John, and it also speaks of the coming of the Antichrist. So you got all this, relationship to 13 is, the Greeks saying 13 is trash, 12 is great. The Romans going, yeah, we totally agree, and then the Romans going, oh, witches are 13. And then the aggravation with the calendars, the issue of 13 at the Last Supper, and then the issue with the 13th chapter being the Antichrist chapter. 13 got a bad press, but more than anything, I think that it is very much a Christian thought that 13 is unlucky, because certainly in the other Levant religions like Judaism and Islam, 13 isn't considered unlucky. In fact, in Judaism, 13 is when a boy becomes a man, and in China, 13 is considered very lucky. And of course, for we witches, 13 is the number of the great goddess. And but even there was one Roman, though, who did kind of buck the trend, because Julius Caesar, the 13th Legion over the Rubicon River, that was when Caesar started his civil war with Rome, the Roman Senate, and of course Julius won and created the Roman Empire. So, 13 was lucky for Caesar.
It would almost, when you look back in history, when the war was declared on witches, it seems as this was a way to try and suppress women from gaining any popularity or any presence in the general public.
Yeah, and absolutely that can be an there's an argument
right.
there. Is there definitely was suppression of women, but in truth it started probably 1,000 years earlier, if not a little bit more than that, and because basically as we went from a hunter-gatherer society where it was very or at least it's believed to have been very matriarchal, to the more settled agricultural society,
right?
Where you start getting a lot of hierarchy, and you get your priesthood class, and you get your king or boss man class, and then there's all the lowly guys, all the rest of the guys at the bottom, and that was when patriarchy started to take over as the politics, or this is the way we're going to do, this is the way we're going to all run our lives from now on, is patriarchy overtaking matriarchy. And so even though the Catholic and Protestant churches, certainly had some very serious issues with women and liking women because they were pretty misogynistic. This also was a culmination of just centuries on top of centuries on top of centuries. They basically were, that was the time. It was what they were all taught from the cradle.
Sure.
So of course they were misogynistic. So you can't look at the burning times of the witches just as a singularity of itself. It was going on for a mazillion years. Now, of course, what's very interesting, too, is when you look at the American flag and the American Great Seal, there's a lot of occult things because a lot of the founding fathers of the U.S. were all Masons.
That's right.
And they were all occult, okay, because there's 13 stripes on the American flag. It was 13 colonies. And, of course, on the seal itself, the Great Seal, you've got 13 stripes on the shield. The eagle holds 13 olive branches, a bunch of branches with 13 olives, 13 olive leaves. The talon holds 13 arrows. E pluribus unum is 13 letters. And the unfinished pyramid has 13 levels.
Wow.
So, so the lovely Masons who founded the U.S. of A. Were pretty occult-minded, and let me tell you, the U.S. is a very, for a country that was not a country, was just a bunch of colonies, and just went from coast to coast, got rid of the Spaniards, and even though, the War of 1812 with the Brits was a draw, when you look at within basically 300 years, the United States went from a backwater to this massive world power.
Ashley, we've got to take our final break. Please stand by to come back to this. Very interesting, as the X-Zone always is when Lady Ashley joins us. If you'd like to send Lady Ashley an email, her email address is Ashley's Magic, there's 2 S's there, ashleysmagic@gmail.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Lady Ashley and I come back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.